Hello. Do you feel alone in the universe? Floating around, unable to find your place in the infinite expanse of space-time. Then dock yourself right here at the Failing Writers Space Station for aimless writers, authors, screenwriters, and all. Or FWWOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOO Sponsored by Scrivener.
Tom, have you noticed how the word legend is bandied around willy-nilly these days?
It's bandied around willy-nilly, you're right.
It really
You
is.
are right.
Like
the phrase bandied around willy-nilly, isn't it? That's bandied.
Is it?
That's bandied around willy-nilly, about things that are bandied around.
Yeah, you're right. I should have come up with something a little bit more original, shouldn't I, really?
Yeah.
But you can be called a legend for... Well, I was thinking most situations where you get called a legend, they involve being drunk, don't they?
Yes.
And scaling a lamppost or something.
Or happening to find an extra bottle of wine somewhere. Oh, you legend!
Yeah, it's an absolute legend. Or weeing off the top of a building or something. Do you know what I mean?
Right.
Or stealing a wheelie bin. They're not really legendary activities, are they? But yeah, the man with us today is an actual bona fide, real-life TV legend.
Does he weed off a building? I didn't know that about... We should have asked him about that.
I don't think... He's a kind of legend who doesn't even need to do that to be a legend. That's how much of a legend he is.
Yeah, it's possible that some of the characters he'd written may have weed off a building or stolen a wheelie bin.
Certainly, definitely. We are, of course, talking about Doug Naylor, co-creator of the Chicken Song.
And Red Dwarf.
And, that other thing that he did shortly after. Yeah, we're talking to Doug because he's gone and written a children's book, a middle grade book, Tommy, like what you have.
Indeed.
But before we do that, before we chat to Doug, a couple of little things. Firstly, we need to thank our magnificent sponsor, Scrivener.
We do. Do you want to do it this week? Because I always feel like I always say thank you to them, and I think it'd be nice if you did.
It's time for me to say thank you. You don't feel like I'm grateful.
No, I'm sure you are. It's not maybe coming across. Okay. I think maybe you should.
Sorry, Scrivener. If that's true, I'm really sorry. Thank you so much for being there for us this season.
You patronising bastards. Come on,
Did that come across as a little disingenuous?
Little bit, but
no, I meant it from the bottom of my heart, and I mean that. And
that's nice.
And it's a thank you not just from us, but also for helping the thousands of other happy Scrivener users across the world. And we know that they're happy because we speak to writers quite frequently, and a weird number of them mention the fact that they use Scrivener and love it.
They do, don't they?
So just think, you could be happy too. There's actually no need to be a miserable writer.
And you can go to literatureandlatte.com.
Yep.
Either get a little free trial of Scrivener, I believe, or if you're going to just jump in and buy the whole thing, enjoy 20% off on us by using the code FAILING.
We should actually, Tommy, on the same kind of topic, we should mention that it's not very long until a certain popular annual flash fiction competition kicks off. Also sponsored by Scrivener.
Dates to be yet firmly established, but in the very near future.
It will be happening. And you could potentially win £500.
It will be happening.
So yeah, keep your eyes peeled. Last thing. After we chat to Doug, we've got another Hype Writer feature, haven't we, Tom? What is that? I hear some of you ask. Tell them, Tommy. Tell them what Hype Writer is, just in case there's someone out there who doesn't know.
So we love hearing your stuff. So if you've got some writing that you're particularly proud of, and frankly, we don't care what it is.
No, it could be
whether
anything.
It's poetry, nice little bit of prose, or the start of your novel.
The end of your novel.
It could be the end of your novel.
The middle of your novel.
Just something. Maybe you work in copywriting and once you wrote a really nice ingredients label for a bottle of soup or something.
Yeah, we'll take anything. As long as you're really proud of it.
Yeah.
And maybe for some absurd reason, it's never had the chance to see the light of day. But yeah, you can send it to us at failingwriterspodcast@gmail.com. And if we like it too, it could appear here on this podcast.
Yeah.
Right, Tom, should we get on with the interview?
Have a chat with Doug? Yeah, let's. Thank you very much for joining us.
Thank you.
Some people are a bit weird about coming on the Failing Writers podcast, but we do try and explain that it's us that are failing, and we try and learn from other people that aren't, that have been successful.
I did think it was probably not a good title for you guys either.
Yeah.
It should be the about to succeed writer, yeah, or any minute now, triumphant.
Well, it's very kind of you to say so, Doug, but I think Trading Standards or someone might have issues with that. We're probably best sticking where we are.
We're pretty on brand, to be fair.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay, all right.
Very kind, very kind. But you're joining us because you've written a kid's book.
I have, yes.
Now, my first question, because people will know you from obviously Red Dwarf as kind of your big thing, if you like.
Yeah.
Why a kid's book? Where did that come from?
It was just an idea I actually had the idea, God, quite a long time ago, about 2006, 2007. And I wrote a TV series, 3 episodes, 45 minutes each, about 2 of the characters in the book.
Oh, okay.
And it was about a flying saucer that crashes. They go on board, they take off, it crashes again, and they get taken into Area 51 because people think they're aliens. And Area 51's this incredible magical world with, the Yetis there, Loch Ness Monster, and then there's a big adventure. And so it wasn't sold because an ITV executive said, it's for kids, so it won't really get an audience. And I went, what about Harry Potter? And he went, yeah, but Harry Potter, that's a one-off. Okay, yeah, all right, nothing's quite going to match Harry Potter in terms of success. Yeah, fair enough. And then I sent it to another film company, and this young woman, I think she was 19, she was an intern, read it in one sitting and said, I didn't think I was going to enjoy this, but I absolutely loved it. And they said, what you should do is, it would be much easier to sell if you write a novel of this, and then it's so much easier to sell the rights if it's based on a novel. And then I think Red Dwarf 10 came along. And so it was just, I half started this thing and then I just forgot about it and blah, blah, blah. So one day I went back to the computer and I was thinking, what have I got that I really like that I'd like to develop? And I thought, that idea. And what was that thing about, I didn't do it because it's easy. I did it because I thought it would be easy. So I thought, I'll just do that. The story's all mapped out. Terrific. So the only thing I've got to work out is where the flying saucer actually crashes. So I thought, well, I don't want any adults there, so it needs to be at a school. Therefore, it probably have to be an orphan school. But then it can't just crash in the school grounds. It will need to crash somewhere kind of private. And I thought, maybe there's a Simbin Island place where all the naughty kids are sent. It could crash there. Fantastic. That's what I'll do. So fine. I thought, right, I'll just write the beginning bit and then join it to my flying saucer bit, piece of cake. Mm-hmm. So I start off and I really start to enjoy. Suddenly the Russian nesting doll appears, like, okay, where did that come from? No idea. Right, that's good. I keep that. And then I started to have so much fun with the merits and the demerits. It started to grow longer and farther away. And my eldest son, who's also a writer, said, how's that thing going that you're writing? And I said, I'm doing the flying saucer thing, which he's never been particularly fond of. Right. And I said, but this other kind of thing's overtaking me, which is, school, blah, 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 for orphans, blah, blah, and the 4 worst behaved kids get sent off to Simbin Island where this flying saucer is going to crash. And he went, forget the flying saucer. No one wants the flying saucer. Although having said that, I did pitch the flying saucer idea to another relative, a woman aged, I think she was 24 at the time, and she loved the flying saucer. So that's not true. Anyway, he said, forget the flying saucer. He said, the island, that's what this is about. And if it's smugglers and tunnels and all that stuff, he said, I would definitely read it as a, kid. So I thought, yeah, you're right. So that's really where it came from. So I think I had 80,000 of my flying saucer version before one day I cut 40,000 words. No, I'm not brave enough to do it. Anyway, just live with it. It's going to be about smugglers and stuff. No flying saucers in this at all.
I did feel at the start of your story there was several times where I felt like interjecting and going for our audience. And by the way, audience, there is no flying saucer in this.
There is no flying saucer in this.
I know Doug's talking an awful lot about a flying saucer here, but there isn't actually a flying saucer. It's mostly about pirates.
It's right. And smugglers. More smugglers than pirates. But
I love that because that's such it's a nice old school kids adventure thing. It just, as soon as starting reading all that in your book, it was just like, this is like a proper rip-roaring adventure. It's like a souped-up famous 5. It's the Goonies. It's kind of all that stuff. And Yeah, I love it. Love that stuff.
Yeah.
Much better than flying saucers. That's rubbish.
There you go. So he was absolutely right.
There's a character in it, isn't there, who keeps going, "Oh, I love secret bookcases." I love a booby trap.
Yeah, everything, anything that happens.
And it's like, that's exactly right.
But she never ever says, "I love flying saucers."
No,
so there we go.
No,
not once. No.
Doug, did you at least keep the characters? Were they effectively the same?
So I absolutely kept the characters. Because I'd written them in the very first Flying Saucer version. They were probably a bit younger. They're probably about 8 or 9. So I did that version. And then I really liked the Flying Saucer idea. So
oh my God, Doug, stop going on about the flying bloody saucer.
Right. And then did the grown-up version of the Flying Saucer thing. And again, I gave it to my son. He went, I prefer it when they were younger. So it's like, okay, well, fine. And then he didn't like it at all when he came into the book. So I'd written 2 of the characters. So I really felt I'd known them at 9 and then as adults. So I thought, oh, right, I kind of, I know you. So I'll definitely use those 2 characters. Which
it's weird. That's quite useful in a way, isn't it? Having lived with them at different ages to get a more rounded character. Yeah.
What I love about this story, Doug, is that it's all about, like, people talk about how writing is just rewriting.
Oh, yeah.
What I love is the fact that you've got all this experience of stories and writing and stuff, and yet you're there, like, rewriting and rewriting and rewriting to get it right. And that amazes me, the amount of experience you've
why
had.
aren't you better at writing by now?
Yeah. Why aren't you writing it first time, Doug, for God's sake?
You should be way past all this by now.
Yeah. Well, I mean, probably if my son had gone, that flying saucer thing sounds absolutely amazing. It must have been much easier. But then when I finally did the smuggler version, the original one, I'd gone into bookshops to see how many pages were in most children's novels. And it seemed to me that they were all about that thick and they were the best sellers. So I thought, right, well, I'll aim for that. I'll aim for around about certainly 80,000 words. Anyway, it turned out in the end it was 104,000 words. Slightly too long, possibly, but not the end of the world, I thought. And then it went off to publishers, and every single publisher went, this is too long. And some went, it's too long, we're not interested. And some went, why don't you turn it into 2 or 3 books? And David Fickling, who published it in the end, read it in a week and read it twice in a week. And then contacted me and went, we so want this. And, they were so enthusiastic. They kind of blew everyone out of the water. But then it was a question of, oh, great, it's going to be published. But now I've got to cut it in 2. But you couldn't cut it in 2. You actually I had to write a whole new, it was more than a third to the original opening. So anyway, I've got quite a big chunk of book 2.
Well, that's the happy accident out of that one, isn't it?
Yeah. So all that, there's huge benefits of being able to do payoffs, seed it and then pay off, seed it, pay off when you've gone through it a few times.
Yeah. Do you already have a number in mind of how many there'll be in the series? Because I'm guessing you have to sort of build a sort of long-term series arc as well, a sort of a story arc that covers the whole thing. Do you kind of have a number in mind?
The thing is, you're a bit governed by, I mean, if this goes out and sells, 200 copies, there'll be 1 in the series. Yeah. There is a contract for 3. I think there'll be more than that. And I kind of quite like because I've written the adult versions of 2 of them, that we even don't jump from year to year. We actually have now we'll jump 5 years or whatever. And then we hit them possibly in Area 51 in a flying saucer at some point.
Always with the spaceships, Doug. Always with the spaceships. Bloody hell.
Always with the spaceships. I'm very, if I like an idea, I'm always very reluctant not to keep writing
until it works or till it gets somewhere.
Yeah, well, I mean, that's what happened with Red Dwarf. It was rejected 3 times by the BBC. We kept that wasn't rewritten. We just kept taking the same script back. And then eventually, BBC Manchester, who had nothing to do with any of the rejections.
I was just going to say, what happens when you just go back with the same thing and go, we've just come back with the same thing again, by the way. Do you like it any more now?
Yeah, no, I know, it doesn't make any sense that you just don't do that. So the first time it was sent there by Paul Jackson, and they went, nah, don't like it, don't get it. And then he went back with it again and said, read it again, because I really think this is exciting and good. And they went, no, we still don't like it. And I said, he's pitching it wrong. He's just not pitching it right. Get us a meeting with the head of comedy. We'll pitch it right and we'll sell it. So we got the meeting with Gareth Gwenlyn, who famously said, no one will be able to write about characters on a spaceship because no one's been on a spaceship apart from 3 blokes who went to the moon. So we won't get there till later.
And he became a fictional expletive.
Yeah. And he said, the thing is, if you had a sofa and a sort of French windows, and then people got comfortable with that, and then that turned out to be on a spaceship, then that would be much more commercial and you know, people would be able to, yeah. But so it was like, okay, right, you don't like it. But having said that, bless him, he did commission, and we convinced him that a science fiction comedy show was a really good idea, and he did commission us to write one. And then when he said, right, I'm going to commission you, and I went, there you go, there it is, it's called Red Dwarf. And he went, no, not Red Dwarf, I don't like it. But so, yeah, then 3 years later, we finally sold it.
How did the pilot and the first bit of Red Dwarf go down at the time?
We didn't make a pilot. What we did was, it was a bizarre situation where we went in to make the series and we rehearsed the show,
right.
And then we were told there was an electrician strike and we wouldn't be able to shoot it that week. I was like, oh. So, okay, well, we'll shoot show 2 now instead for the following week. So we then rehearsed show 2, and then that got axed as well because of the electrician strike. And we did that for every show, and each time the show was cancelled because of the electrician strike. And then it was like, right, well, we've come to the shooting schedule. We've done it all. I said, we haven't shot anything. So that's it. Sorry, guys. It doesn't look like it's going to be made. And Peter Risdale Scott, who'd commissioned it, made sure the set was put in storage. And no one really expected it to be resurrected. But lo and behold, it was resurrected. But the consequence of that was we'd had sort of a trial go. So we knew the actors. Famously, one day, Greg Charles was in the canteen. Danny was having sausage and egg for breakfast. And Craig sat next to him, picked up a bottle of ketchup, squirted it onto the Formica table, nicked one of Danny's sausages, dumped it in the ketchup, and he said, and I swear this is true, oh, God, man, I'm really worried I'm going to get typecast as Red Dwarf, and I'm nothing like that character. And then I fell off our chairs laughing, going, yeah, it's just sheer brilliance with your acting. Yeah, I don't know how you do it. But we had all that benefit of that. It was kind of like a workshop. They didn't provide lines, but we were able to kind of get what they could do. And then we shot it for real, the whole first series. And the first show went out and got 5.3 million, and I think was number 3 in the ratings on BBC Two.
Wow.
And had really, really good feedback from the public. We would show the following day, and people going, oh, I love Red Dwarf, I'm a Red Dwarf fan. And I'm thinking, it's only been one episode. Can he be a Red Dwarf fan after one episode?
I mean, to be fair, it was quite good.
Oh, thank you.
How did you learn the craft of comedy writing, Doug? Was it kind of all when you worked in radio, or had you been writing quite a lot in your spare time anyway?
I saw an article. My parents used to get the Daily Express. And I opened the Daily Express one morning and saw this article about this guy who'd never written for television before, and had sent up a script, and it was on television tonight. I think it was called Paradise Island. It was a bit of a rip-off of Gilligan's Island. And I thought, oh my God, I didn't realize you just send a script up and then they make it into TV. And that's so easy. You can't do that. And provided, I mean, it's got to be all right, obviously. But, so I went to the pub that night. I was probably 19. And said to my friends, a group of friends, and Rob was one of them, so I'm going to write a sitcom. I can do that. I can write a funny sitcom and then get it on TV. I think I might do that as to make my living. And Rob went, I'll give you a hand. So we were both at Liverpool University. We'd been to school, the same school together, and we were at Liverpool University. So we spent probably 6 months writing this sitcom called The Big Time, about 2 private detectives comedy. Sent it off to the BBC, and they very kindly wrote back and said, we don't want this, but you write mildly amusing dialogue. And it was like, oh, you write mildly amusing dialogue. And then 2 weeks later, we were both kicked out of university for not going to lectures and wasting time writing this sitcom with mildly amusing dialogue. So went home, parents not best pleased. So they said, you've got to resit, you should resit it. This is, because you want to be a psychologist, don't you? Yeah, okay. So I retook my second year. But after 2 weeks, I realized how much I hated it. It was so much maths, and I just couldn't handle it. And it turns out later I'm numerically dyslexic, which kind of, I understand it more now, but doing chi-squared tests and, anyway, so I didn't go in. But I pretended I was going in for my parents' benefit and instead went to Manchester Central Library, which has the most glorious scripts and floor of screenplays and how to write books. Well, it's about 3. And for a year, I just read these books. So it was my own sort of university, Doug teaches Doug how to write comedy. And so I got a lot from that. Then Rob and I wrote a radio script. They liked that. We got in, and they were making a documentary called The American Way of Laughs. And this guy had about 100 American stand-up albums. And I used to go in. It was fantastic back in those days. I mean, you just walk into the BBC, you go, hi, to the reception desk lady, get in the lift, up to the 3rd floor, down the corridor, open the office. It's Saturday, and I just listened to these comedy albums. No one would, they kind of knew who I was, but, I didn't work for the BBC. I was a freelance writer. So that was the education. I was very aware of how am I going to get better, because no one's going to teach you. You've got to do it yourself. I mean, now there are hundreds, thousands of courses, brilliant books, brilliant. There was no kind of writer's journey stuff back then to read. There was a book by Malcolm Hulke called Writing for Television. And he said, basically, when you create characters, list the same characteristic 3 times. So if you want a mean character, do 3 mean things, and then people will know he's mean. And you think, does it have to be 3? Well, I mean, doesn't it depend? If you kill a person, do you have to kill 3 people?
He's only done 2 mean things. He's probably all right.
Exactly.
He's probably all right.
He's probably all right, yeah. So it wasn't that sophisticated, that book. But that was the only one I could find, particularly on Writing for Television.
Craft question, Doug. When you're coming up with a story, say, to use an episode of Red Dwarf as an example, how do you approach it? Do you have a kind of strategy? Do you follow a kind of beat sheet, or is it just different every time? Are you just doing it intuitively?
I'll have an idea for the episode. So it will be, what happens if they discover some kind of place where science is prohibited?
And would you have had that idea previously and have them in a little
I used to write them down. We would be chat. And we would I'd list about 40 ideas. What about this? What happens if Rimmer, blah, blah, blah. And so you do, okay, maybe, boom, 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 boom. And then we'd have this list of about 40 ideas. And then we go, right, it's time to write something. What should we do? What's our favorite idea? And we would always choose the favorite idea to start with. Or sometimes ideas were, I think back to reality, I was a bit, is that a bit like Better Than Life? Won't people be able to guess it if they've read Better Than Life? And Rob was going, no, I don't think they will. And I went, let's put that to one side and we choose another one. And then, of course, we did it, and it famously is one of the best episodes we've done. But so generally that's what it is. And so you then get the idea, and then we would pretty much beat it out. So you go, Crichton is going to be replaced. Okay, so blah, blah, blah. Hudson will come along to replace him. And blah, blah, blah. How do we get rid of Hudson? There's going to be some kind of battle at the end and shootout and get rid of him, blah, blah, blah. Oh, okay, right. So what would the first scene be? Oh, well, it's blah, blah. Then we beat it out like that. Then we just start writing it. And I don't have as much of that. I discover more over the page than Rob and I did. I don't know why that is. Maybe I'm more impatient, or maybe it's easier when you're bouncing ideas off someone else. But I never go in not really knowing where I was or where I was going.
But it usually starts with a kind of what if question, and then you develop it from there.
Exactly, yeah. And Stephen King, though, says he thinks people who write the last line of their novel, he hates them because he goes, you've taken all the joy of writing away because you know what happens. And also, and this is absolutely true, and was true of Simbin, I knew they all had secrets, But Cab's secret, I didn't know what it was, but I knew it would be this amazing secret. And I'm writing it, and I go, "Oh, we should bring this up." And it was like, the character did not want to tell me what it was then. And it's like, no, okay, I totally respect that. It's too early. It's too early, but you will have to tell me at some point. And it was like, and then when we got to the campfire scene, and she did, and that was a complete shock to me what it was, which is bizarre because it's coming out of my brain. But it was like, oh my God, yes, that's what it is. And it's a double whammy, as it turns out. And that scene used to, I'm stronger now, but made me cry every time I read it, until very recently.
So you think that maybe was part of the difference between working by yourself in your own head, bouncing it off your subconscious rather than actual off another human being?
I'm a huge believer in the subconscious, that subconscious gives you ideas, but you've got to ask it for the ideas. You've got to load it, but you can't do it half-heartedly. You've got to, like, I've got this problem. What's the solution? You know, she's got a secret. What's the secret? And it's amazing, actually, how often it provides.
It's difficult, though, isn't it? Because you can't really control it. It's just going on in the background.
Yeah.
It could be really great, or it could be awful.
Or it could be awful. But you can reject the awful ones, but often they're not awful. You go, I think early morning when you got up, providing you're not turning the radio on or whatever, and you've got all sorts of other noise going on, that can be really, really useful.
That's your time for ideas, is it? Early morning, cup of coffee.
Yeah. After I've woke up, sometime in the shower, whatever. I mean, generally there's about half an hour that's useful, and then I'm done.
Doug, is there anything that you wish you'd known at the beginning of your career writing sitcoms that might be useful for writers like coming into the game now?
You have to be incredibly tenacious, and you've got to keep going. You've got to keep going. You've got to keep going. And also, it's like fishing, and we didn't do enough of this, Rob and I haven't done enough of it either. But the more lines you've got in the water, the more likely you are to catch a fish.
Yeah.
And so someone once told me, I have thought of the greatest idea ever for a sitcom. And I went, oh, wow, brilliant. What is it? He said, no, I can't tell you because you might steal it. And I went, no, I won't steal it. I promise you I won't steal it. And he went, no, I can't. In fact, I don't know how I'm going to sell it because I can't really tell anyone in case they'll steal it. Now, you'll be not surprised to hear that sitcom that's the greatest idea has never been made, which is weird, isn't it? And it's never been made because he didn't write it for a start, let alone whether it was the greatest idea for a sitcom ever.
In itself, though, that is actually possibly the greatest idea for a sitcom, isn't it?
For a sitcom,
about a guy who thinks he's got the best idea for a sitcom ever and somehow gets something made that doesn't, without telling anyone ever what it is.
Well, that's a perfectly good idea. There you go. So you've got to write things and finish them. That's one thing.
I hate it when people say this. Really find it personally offensive.
It's a pain in the arse. It is a pain in the arse, especially the finishing them.
Yeah, that's the bit that got me.
Often the best bits are the starting them and then going, I have no idea where this is going bit. The
fun bits. Yeah.
And the other thing that I thought is useful, and I think I casually mentioned this to my wife, is when you're doing a project, tell lots of people. So it's hugely embarrassing if you don't finish it.
I love that, Doug.
I was contemplating writing a children's novel. Just contemplate. Happened to mention it to my wife. I'm thinking of it. I might use that brilliant flying saucer idea. Although I've moved it a little bit and it's more on this island now. And she went, oh, yeah, okay, fine. Yeah, sounds good. And then we went to see a great nephew and a great niece who were 12 and 14. And she said, oh, by the way, Doug is writing a children's novel. And they went, oh, cool. What's it about? And it was like, oh, what have you done? Why have you said that? So I said, well, it's about this island, actually, and with this school, orphanage, and the 4 worst behaved kids get sent there and they have to survive there without bread or water. And they went, oh, that is so cool. I would definitely write that. And so then I was locked into it. So every time I would see them again, how's the novel going, they would say. Oh, how much have you read? Have you sold it yet? So I had to finish that. So it was quite useful. because it was like, I can't just go, I just gave up.
It's funny you say that, though, Doug. That's how this podcast came into existence, really. That was one of its main reasons, was to be like accountability for us.
Yes.
So we couldn't just say, doing bits and bobs. That we actually had to say, we used to do on the podcast, like in the early series of the very first thing we did, we'd always say, what are you writing? So there'd be some follow through, and then next week was how's it going? Obviously, we'd say rubbish, and then we'd mock each other.
So would you share the scripts around them?
Yeah. So we'd read each other's stuff, and then
handy.
Do little bits on the podcast about it and critique it.
Right, that's really helpful. Brian Sanderson does the same thing. The novelist, the sci-fi novelist, does the same thing, where he has a group of friends and trusted allies, as it were, and goes, here's the first draft of my novel, what do you think? And they all go blah blah blah, and he goes, oh brilliant, thanks very much, boom, and then he goes away and does what he does.
Now that we're getting to the point that we've spoken to you long enough that it doesn't matter if you hang up and leave, can we have a quick chat about Red Dwarf USA?
Yes.
And the transitions of successful British comedies into often car crashes of US versions. I'm always fascinated about, is it just, how does it happen? How much involvement do you have? How painful is it for you? How was it expected? Like, what? Just the whole.
The two American guys came over. Linwood Boomer and his producer came over. We're really excited by Red Dwarf. I think it's absolutely amazing. And Linwood Boomer had worked on a show called Night Court, and he'd been one of the head writers of it. He'd never been a showrunner before, and he went on, by the way, after the debacle that was the Red Dwarf pilot, to do Malcolm in the Middle.
Which that was quite good.
Absolutely.
Quite successful.
Yeah. So no question. But I think it was probably a year or two too early for him. Anyway, they came over, we had lunch. Our agent at the time, and it's how he got us a book deal, used to pour Sancerre down people to make them friends. Now, when we got our first Red Dwarf novel, he wasn't drinking, our agent, but Rob and I were, and so was our editor-to-be, Tim, and we had 6 bottles of Sancerre between them.
Wow.
Okay? Woke up with a deal. Not that good a deal, I have to say.
With a deal and a headache.
So he did a similar thing with the Americans. Now, they came from LA, and I think water was probably the strongest thing they'd ever drunk.
Yeah.
So he poured some Sancerre down them, and they were wandering around Trafalgar Square for a long time trying to figure out what country they were in. And then we didn't hear from them, and it's like, oh, well, they're looking at casting. And then there was a question of, we want Robert Llewellyn to play Crichton, and we were shooting Red Dwarf 5. So it's like, oh, this is going to be tricky. Robert going in and going, hey, I've hit the big time. So we went, please just keep that quiet until we've at least finished the series. So I had to edit the series, and Rob generally didn't come to the edit. And so we couldn't go over. So as soon as the edit was finished for Red Dwarf 5, we then flew over, and they were making the show the following week, and it was all cast. And there was a read-through, and you could tell it wasn't very good. And the casting was not right. We can't recast anything, blah, 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 that's the cast. And the guy that they was playing Lister was a guy called Craig Bierko, who was very tall and very handsome and very charming. So you could have a Lister like that, but you've got to write it for him as we wrote it for Craig to make it credible. And the pilot was about how he was too nervous to ask out this woman who wasn't nearly as attractive as he was. It's like, what's the big deal? Are you mad? You're gorgeous. So it didn't work. Then we had the bizarre, so there was a the read-through, didn't get going there. And then we said, can we do a pass on it? And we will work through the night and have a new script by the following morning. So he went, yeah, okay. All right, I suppose, yeah. He was a bit reluctant, but our logic was, if we write something that's better, obviously he's not mad. We didn't realize you make an absolute fortune from writing the pilot.
Oh, okay.
A fortune. Right. It's a special fee you get. We didn't know that. So anyway, we wrote this thing, which was way better, I have to say. Modestly, it was way better. And he read it and went, nah. We'll just do what we did. So we hadn't gone to bed. And so we went, well, we are going to check out. We're going home. It's a waste of time, us being here. So we went back to the hotel, and we've been given a bottle of champagne on arrival each. So we each drank a bottle of champagne and then got sort of Dutch courage and went, well, let's go back and
help
through with them. Okay. What have we got to lose? That sounds like a really good idea. So we went back and we said to the guys, hey, did you ever get to read our rewrite, which is much better? And they went, no, we didn't. So they were all on their agents going, the only reason we're doing this is because there are two creators and now they've written this script and they won't even let us there. So the director was a guy, every time they rehearsed a scene, would laugh at every laugh line in not very good script every single time they did
like
it.
Human canned laughter.
Yes, it was exactly that. To remind them it was funny and not to get jokes.
That's brilliant.
It was, until he read our script. All right, and he read our script in absolute silence. So he thought, okay, we're on a... Yeah. So they complained to their agents. They insisted that they got to read ours. They read it, and then Linwood agreed that we would shoot the new scripts, and then somehow contrived not to. And then we shot what is famously the pilot, which is out there, and then he was fired because they didn't think he was the right guy. And then they said, we want you to come back and we want you to do a new pilot and cast it. But we haven't got a budget and we haven't got a studio. So we were given sort of a garage and a couple of cameras. It was so but don't worry, just give us a flavor of that. But we need to recast it. Well, you can't recast it now because all the casting people are away, or all the real major talent are all in the new pilot season. So we did a little teaser, which with Terry Farrell, who was a model at the time. And we said, we think she's really good. And she's funny too. And they were going, she's a model. And we went, we don't care what she's a model. So what? If she can act, fine. And we were having her as the cat, just to get a woman in it somehow. We weren't told to do that. But so anyway, we did this little, and then they just went, no, we don't want it anymore. And that was the end of that.
It's just a whole weird process that seems to repeat itself in various different guises over and over again, where they see something successful over in the UK and then just don't understand the subtleties or the reason why it works.
I think that's right. But also you've got to write it for the new cast.
Yeah.
Who they are, they will be able to do, if one of them can juggle, right, juggling in somewhere, whatever. Use their talents and their gifts. Certain people can play credible characters of quite close to who they are. I mean, our guys, and we'll be the first to admit, they are all very close to their characters. And that's, hand on heart, because we went, whatever we thought Lister and Rimmer were, and they were quite close, because that's how they can be deepened if we make them closer to the actors who are playing them. So, and you've got to do that if you're doing a reboot, an American reboot.
You must get asked this constantly, Doug, but there were like 12 plus series, but there seem to be kind of never-ending rumours of more. What's the latest on that?
Well, I was writing a special, and they pulled the rug out when I was 2/3 the way through the script, and they are no longer, UK TV are no longer commissioning scripted comedy.
But there's no one else kind of potentially interested? Or
to be fair, I haven't made it public. I'm making it public this week. So this is all
got to get those fishing lines out, haven't you?
Get the fishing lines out. So if someone wants to come along and commission it, I know the guys want to do it, and I know the audience, the Red Dwarf fans want it. So
the audience is there, literally waiting.
And it was a really interesting story as well, and Craig was really excited about it. It was Lister going back in time and getting his younger self out of stasis and escaping with him, so he didn't wind up living the life he...
Whoa. So we'll wait for that. Hopefully that'll happen at some point. It's bound to, surely. I've got a weird curveball question for you. Do you and Robert ever still occasionally get royalties for the chicken song?
Funny you should say that. I went to a music session about 3 months ago, and it was basically no one could work out what the American rights situation was with the chicken song, because I think I can say what the show is, Rivals, the Jilly Cooper drama, wants to use the chicken song as in a scene where all their characters are partying. And so it's been re-recorded.
It's great to see the chicken song being brought to a new generation, isn't it?
Yeah,
it's lovely.
It is. It is. It's annoying a whole new generation.
Because I was just thinking when John asked that question that there's probably going to be a decent percentage of our listeners that are like, "This has been an interesting conversation. What on earth are they talking about here now? What's a chicken song? About? Yes. Yeah, what's that?"
If you weren't around in the 80s, you may not have heard of it, but it's like a parody of those Black Lace summer songs involving picking pineapples and
again. I still think, John, that's not going to be enough information for some people.
Of course, they're still not going to know
Black
that.
Lace as if it's some kind
Go onto YouTube and put chicken song, and you will hear it in its glory.
Go onto YouTube first. Put in Black Lace Agadoo, so you can get some cultural basis.
No, that's too much pain. That's too much pain. In fact, I gave a talk about that about 6 months ago. There was this thing. I don't know. I never accept these things, and for some mad reason, I did. It was, will you come and talk about will you come and talk about the song that changed your life? And I thought, I know what I'm going to do. I'll do the chicken song. I'll do the chicken song. So that idea appealed to me, and I told the story. It's absolutely true. And I began the speech with this, which was the song that changed my life was #1 hit on the day my wife and I got married, and it was huge awe from the audience.
Oh, this is going to be a deeply romantic story. I can't wait to hear what romantic song this will be. What love ballad this will be.
Yeah, the most annoying thing ever written, and I co-wrote the lyrics, and and then it opened up and blah blah, and again, and I told the story of. And this, again, absolutely true. We'd fiddle with this, the lyric for Every Breath You Take, the Sting song. And the lyric that was sent was every bomb you make. But we changed the lyrics. We're very proud of it. And it was that kind of satire where it's not funny, but it's making a point. And then the next thing we heard was Sting is actually recording this, Sting himself in Paris. And he wants to release it as a single. So we thought, oh, my God. We are going to be in some way associated with, because it's going to go to #1, it's Spitting Image, it's Sting, absolutely nailed on, guaranteed. And for whatever reason, Spitting Image refused to do the deal because their percentage wasn't high enough. So we were both really disappointed. And one day I went in, it was a Friday, and sat opposite Rob, and I went, right, okay, we are going to write our own #1 single. And Rob went, have you got any ideas? And I said, I have actually. Because summer's coming up. Remember those terrible Black Lace things, summer things? I think we should write one of those, a parody of that, make it really annoyingly catchy, and talk about how you're going to hate the song, but you're going to be humming it all week. And he went, right, great. And I said, I think it should be kind of weird and surreal, a bit like Steve Martin, Wild and Crazy Guy, his early stand-up. Rob went, right. Hold a chicken in the air, he said. That was the first line. And I said, stick a date clear up your nose. And that was like, right. And we laughed. And we did it was alternate lines, bush, 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 all the way through. And it took us about 5 minutes to write this. And Nick Newman and Ian Hislop came in because we used to write topical material for them in the morning. When me and Rob have just written a #1 hit, honestly, it's going to go to #1. It really is going to go to #1. When Phil Pope, right, it's going to go to #1. They looked at me like, yeah, you moron, what are you talking about? And then Phil, about 3 days later, came in and said, the music for the chicken song's in. And I went, I can't wait to listen to this. This is going to be so annoying. And I listened to it. I thought, I'm really disappointed. It's a bit weedy. And I don't think it's really that catchy enough. All right, we're not going to get to #1. So I drove home. And it was like, what's this bloody noise in my head? And it was the chicken song. I couldn't get the music out of my head. And then thought, actually, you know what? You might have done a good job here, Phil. 3 weeks at #1. And Billy Ocean, who wrote, had a #1. It was some about heartbreaking love songs or something. So we're in the top of the pop studios. And all the puppets are messing about, Maggie Thatcher's snogging Reagan and all that, while he's singing, I'm singing, my love to you, or whatever it was, and he complained, saying the puppets were putting him off. Oh, it was a magical day. A magical day, it really was. 3 weeks at number one, yeah.
And back then, being number one was a huge thing, wasn't it? It doesn't really track anymore. It's not a. But it was like that was the be all and end all of everything. The world would stop for what was number one.
Yeah, and then you look at things like Heroes, David Bowie, like highest place was number 18. Strawberry Fields didn't make it. The Chickens are number one. And not 1 week, 3 weeks.
Quality will always shine through, won't it?
Madonna, Peter Gabriel on below. So it was
pissed a lot of people off.
It really did, yeah.
Do you ever get any feedback from like Black Lace on that?
Yes, they said, it's not very good. And we're a bit touchy about it. You go, seriously?
I'd never really considered before what Black Lace's self-image was in terms of their musical credentials. And
I think they thought.
So they were taking themselves seriously.
I think they were, yeah.
Right. Okay. Fair enough. Good for them.
Good for them. Yeah, exactly.
Well, Doug, thanks so much. That's been such an enjoyable chat. It really has.
An absolute delight talking to you. Yeah, and I really enjoyed your book as well. I don't think I said that before.
Oh, thank you.
Especially, by the way, one of the things I really loved about it, I loved all the extra kind of bits of pirate knowledge and like survival skills and all these little interesting kind of tidbits of wisdom.
Very educational. I know, it's very educational.
No, that's one of the things that made it quite nostalgic. I used to get them, like the annuals at Christmas. Of the comic books and stuff, and they'd have little things like that. Someone would be stranded on an island, and they'd have to make fire by getting a piece of glass and focusing the sun, and all these little things. And it kind of just echoed and reflected that. It's sort of it was nice.
And now I know how to determine where north is by using my watch.
But
cool.
All these things are the things that you read and you go, right, so you do it, and then but you're actually stuck in a forest, you go, and then you put it, hold on a minute, no, was I meant to line up what am I lining up with? Oh, shit, I'm lost.
I am lost.
Yeah.
Yes. Oh, well, thanks, Marie. It's out, guys, on September the 11th, and it's available for pre-order now.
Excellent. Well, it's got the Failing Writers seal of approval, if that's worth anything.
Thank you. I'll put that on the back, actually.
Brilliant. Thanks a lot, Doug.
And good luck with all the stuff you may or may not be working on and finishing.
Thanks very much. What a genuinely lovely bloke.
He was lovely, wasn't he?
He was a really nice chap. It's interesting, isn't it? Sometimes you almost half expect somebody to be like, just because they've done it and they've been there and they're good at what they do, they could just be a little, like you would forgive them for being like a bit arsey. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, I think Doug probably is arsey most of the time. But when he's got to promote his new book, he has to. It probably hurt. It's probably uncomfortable for him.
Yeah.
But he's I've got to be nice to these
really
people because
forcing
they're talking about my new book. Yeah, it's probably horrible for him.
Yeah.
Probably hates it.
Almost certainly.
But no, I love the fact that he was just so still willing to tell all the old stories.
And you know what, Tommy? Listening back to that chat and the stuff that Doug was saying about tenacity and persistence, and actually finishing stuff. It feels like to me, it feels like a timely reminder that I did say that I would gently kind of turn the screw on you in terms of pushing you for a deadline to complete draft 2 of your children's book. And I feel like that time might have arrived now. What do you think?
To put that in the diary for later on to talk in a few weeks, a couple of episodes' time to think about talking about a deadline.
just putting it off a little bit longer.
Yeah, I think we should do that.
But I think you need to commit to a deadline. I'm not sure I understand the psychology of the barriers you put in the way of yourself, but I'm hoping that just hearing Doug talk there, that must have inspired you a little bit.
Yeah, I think
surely.
we're heading towards a place where things can start moving again.
Oh, that's good.
I think so. Yeah.
Also, I honestly think it might only take you a couple of weeks if you devote a bit of proper, serious time and thought into it. So I don't think you're far away.
Yeah.
Well. There you go. That was exactly the reaction I was expecting, but
it did kind of go as I expected, that didn't
but it? I feel like it's just a little tiny step forward. So that's all. I
appreciate. Don't think I don't appreciate it.
I'm glad.
I genuinely do appreciate it. I just don't want to hear it. So there was two
we all need it.
sides to that coin.
We all need it occasionally.
I think everyone listening probably understands that, don't they?
Yeah, I suspect they do.
And isn't it so easy to say that to other people?
Oh, it is. Yeah. Oh, yeah.
To give that advice and to be so
smug.
No, not smug. It's that. It's right. You're right. You're completely right, and you're right. And then if it's your stuff, you're like, oh, well, that's not quite, I mean, is it?
Yeah, and we're all the same.
I'll tell you someone who has written something, though, John.
Who's that?
Solomon Atkinson Padmore.
Oh, yes, Hype Writer. It's Hype Writer time. Let's hear that jingle.
Let's have a Hype Writer, the right type of acclaim we all need. Occasionally, if you're a mighty fighter, type who lights up the writing world with your beautiful words.
I didn't know whether people would be getting bored of the jingle, so I sped it up quite a lot then. Apologies if that sounded ridiculous.
I think you might have just ruined it.
I'm not sure it sounded better like that. I think it probably does sound better if... Anyway, Solomon Atkinson Padmore sent us in a nice little piece of work, which is a little short story, isn't it, John?
It is. Shall we hear it first before we begin discussing it? Perfectly Framed by Solomon Atkinson Padmore. Biting cold sinks into my waist, the seams of my waterproof layer submitting to the wet ground. Why am I here? Here before sunrise, laying face down in wet grass. The question lingers, bouncing gently within my skull, although I have an inkling. Holly comes over in the evening. Wine flows as we talk and compare notes well into the night. She swipes through accounts on her phone, tilts it to show me someone's image. It just has no artistry. The words come louder than I intend. Like, that's so unsubtle. At this point, they're not even trying to capture their subject so much as they're just fishing for a reaction. I sit back, clearing my throat. Besides, any idiot can shove a flash into a stranger's face. There's nothing to it. Holly is silent. Then a thin smile splits her red-flushed face. I mean, are you sure you could do any better? A jet of heat spurts up from my stomach. Of course! She's cleaning her nails. Yeah? I wonder how you'd fare without being able to just throw more light at a problem. She leans back against my cushions. Maybe you're becoming too comfortable in this perfect little studio. A blood vessel at my temple twitches. I open my mouth, lips forming a word before I can fully process them. Show me any image on that account and I'll do it better. Holly's grin curves further as she sets her phone down and slides it across to me. Care to make that a bet? She says, presenting me with a perfectly captured image of a bird in flight. I tilt my head over, pressing an eye into my camera's viewfinder. The tall grass ends abruptly, descending a steep bank and into the river below. Another high verge rises opposite, creating the sheltered creek. A rotten beam juts from the waterline, a splintered rib of a long-dead shipwreck. Twilight bounces from the algae layer, bathing the wood in sickly green-blue light. The frame is set. Now it only needs its subject, Timmy. I stifle a yawn, but allow my eyes to close, soothing their soreness as I begin to sink gently into the cool ground. My head rocks back hard. I gasp, but it becomes a retching cough as I double over and eject water in a snotty spray. I see a steel table and a wing of feathers coming to rest upon it. I look up, finding an anthropomorphized Timmy glaring back at me from behind a pair of dark aviators. Timmy is the largest and most feral-looking seagull I have ever seen. During my recce runs, I would watch him strut down the creek, breast thrust forward, head tilted back, eyes sneering at his smaller bird kin. A marina fire claimed patches of his feathers, replacing them with masses of thick pink tissue. A later scuffle with a cat had taken an eye, the empty socket bisected by a black scar that runs from head to bill. Thought that might wake you. He holds up a crushed plastic water bottle. Did I doze off? I move to pinch myself but can't, my wrists bound behind me. Timmy lifts my rucksack from the floor and drops it onto the table. The rain cover is still wet and throws spray across the room. Care to explain this? What, my bag? Funny. Plastic squeals sharply as he rips open the zip. I cringe as he inverts it, sending my collection of lenses, camera bodies, and electronics crashing and bouncing across the table. Timmy picks up my largest lens, deliberately smearing his oily digits across the main element. What were you even trying to achieve with this? I was going to use it to take photos of, well, you. Timmy snorts as he racks the zoom ring, clacking the metal together as he snaps it between minimum and maximum extension. He leans back, surveying my equipment with a slow shake of his head.
The aperture on this glass is limited. Your bodies lack dynamic range, and they'll start ripping apart images as soon as your ISO is even nudged up.
In English? I say, failing to subdue a coy grin. Timmy's eye twitches. The movement shifts his shades down his bill a fraction, revealing the crimson of his bloodshot remaining eye.
Don't play that game with me. We both know that this kit is barely capable of taking a decent image in these conditions.
He rests his wings on the table again, interlocking primary feathers.
Hunters don't stalk buck with bird shots. Marathoners don't race in dress shoes. Boxers don't spar in gardening gloves. And yet, here you are. Photographers don't drag themselves out of bed before sunrise and risk catching their death in a wet field just for the chance their gear can get an image.
He jabs a wing into my chest.
So why are you really here?
My eyes snap open, watering as freezing wind cuts into them. I yawn, blinking through smeared and floater-filled vision. That question again. Timmy's voice joins the quiet chorus in my head. Why am I here? Was that a dream? And if so, what on earth did I eat last night? The wind picks up, shifting the clouds above until a gap finally appears. A line of rich orange light punches through, cutting across the water and falling directly into my frame. Then, northeast, just over the line of trees in the distance, I see him. His wings flap lazily as he glides above the tree line. The first ray of morning catches Timmy as he descends into the creek, a spotlight of gold dancing along his back. Webbed feet connect with the wooden pole, legs brace, and the massive gull bows into his landing. Again, I lean over, eye socket sliding into my viewfinder, frozen fingers tightening around my camera's shutter. Within the center of my guidelines, Timmy draws himself up. Through the tall grass, amid stark and churning waters, upon a splintered, rotting beam, stands Timmy. His form pockmarked and battered, one good eye glaring into my soul, wings outstretched in challenge. A slight turn of my focus ring, just until Timmy is haloed in crimson peaking dots. Then, shoot. The pre-programmed sequence fires a burst of exposures, the electronic shutter snapping on and off with muted clicks against my ear. I turn the dial, shoot again. Another burst, the camera dragging more light into its sensor, sucking in the landscape's glow. Timmy stretches, preening a raised wing. I turn the dial a final time, shoot. Each exposure lasts several agonizing heartbeats. The now mechanical shutter chunks open and closed with each shot. The mechanism is modern, small, and quiet. But in this almost silent gloom, it's a slamming steel door against my ear. Chunk, first exposure. Timmy stops preening, looking into the distance. Chunk, second exposure. His head snaps around, beak lowered, eyes boring into my lens. Chunk, third exposure. Gone. I pull my head clear of the viewfinder and leap to my feet, knees popping in protest. I rip the plastic sleeve from my camera, wiping condensation from the screen as I cycle through the images. The first 24 are unusable, too dark, with Timmy reduced to a pair of milky brown eyes in the darkness. I continue to cycle. The next set are better but fail to capture his glory, still too dark, too washed out, dragging him into the background. I scroll on to the final 3 images. Caught in a frame of movement, the first image is a smear of white feathers atop a green soup. I turn the dial. An errant movement, likely my cold, stiffened shoulders, streaks the second image with a whiplash of horizontal blur. I hesitate, then turn the dial. The final exposure. Through the tall grass, amid stark and churning waters, upon a splintered rotten beam, stands Timmy, his form pockmarked and battered, one good eye glaring into my soul, wings outstretched in challenge, perfectly in focus, perfectly exposed, perfectly rendering my vision into reality. I lower my camera. That errant thought finally arrested. For the first time this morning, I can breathe deeply. I can smell the sweetness in the wet grass and the saltiness in the air. I can stand in silence and enjoy the warmth of the rising sun on my face. Why am I here? Wounded pride, arrogance, spite, perfectionism? Some combination of the above? Perhaps, but it doesn't matter now. the question has been replaced with a new and static certainty. Never again! I shout to nobody, and then with a snorting laugh, I allow myself to fall backwards into the cool grass.
So it's just under 1,500 words, that, which actually it's a good length for a little short story, isn't it?
It's on the chunkier side of what we're probably looking for a hype writer, but you just about got away with it there, mate. Well done.
But it gives you time to kind of get a story properly up and down, doesn't it, without kind of cutting too much.
Definitely. Do you know what I liked about this?
Yeah, go on.
Well, I liked quite a few things about it, but one of the things that I liked most was it felt like it was taken from a moment of real experience.
Right.
Do you know what I mean? Like you felt like Solomon has definitely sat freezing his nuts off, waiting for the perfect shot at some point.
You kind of felt entrenched in it, didn't you?
Yeah.
There was like some depth of it. That kind of, you were in the middle of it rather than just kind of scooting over the surface.
It. And the extent to which it mattered as well. Because for a lot of people, it's not necessarily like a particularly... this sounds wrong, but it's not maybe a particularly interesting setup, like the idea of it. If you were to explain what the story's about, you'd go, all right, okay.
Well, it's just a dude taking
someone's
picture then,
waiting to take a picture.
That's your story, is it?
Okay. But you do feel really like drawn into it, and I thought that was really nice. Also, the setup was quite interesting. It didn't go where I was expecting it to. It felt like the initial sort of paragraph was almost like it was going to be a thriller. Someone's found themselves like outside, wet through, they've lost their memory or something. Do you know what I mean? And then it kind of takes a much less dramatic turn. I quite like that.
Yeah. So is it just, am I missing some secondary, tertiary thing in it? Or is it just a really nicely written kind of ode to the creative process?
That's what I thought, yeah. Exactly that.
Yeah. I never know, you see, whether I always feel like I'm maybe missing, like I'm not quite sharp enough on the uptake on some things when it comes to analysing text.
Bang on.
And I think it does that so well, that kind of, you sense the importance of it.
Yeah.
Without it, it doesn't go on about, oh, and this is important. It's just I said, that depth.
But there's that big question that sits over the top of it, which is kind of, I suppose what he's asking is, why does it matter? Why does art actually matter? Why does any of this matter?
So that's the big. So you're saying that's the big question. Then,
well, I suppose it's all kind of tied in, isn't it?
Yeah.
It feels like that's the question, isn't it? And the lengths we go to for our art to achieve the thing that we want to achieve. I liked all that about it as well. But yeah, but it sort of relates to any art, doesn't it? It relates to writing and painting.
It does, and almost that all that sweat and blood and tears that you put into it is somehow just made worthwhile by the fact that it ends, that there's a finish point.
Yeah.
And you get to the end of it and it's like, oh, yes. And then that kind of end where he ends, with the sort of the never again, which obviously means I will be doing this again.
And I think we all have that moment, don't we? With any piece of art that's nearly killed us.
Yeah.
But it's also for me, it's also the fact that you never quite know what you're going to get until that moment when you finished. It's like capturing a shot. You never know until you actually look through the camera. And there's that really nice moment where he just doesn't know what he's captured until he goes through every shot.
He's put all the work in, if you like, but it's still almost down to fate.
There could be nothing there.
Yeah.
And I think that's great. That's a great metaphor for art generally, isn't it?
Yeah, maybe, yeah. And that you've got to try and expose yourself, if you'll pardon the pun there, John, and be willing, well, as within the podcast that we're in right now, you've got to be willing to have the chance of failure. You can't just shy away from it to get the good stuff.
Yeah. They're not always going to be great. Apart from these, obviously, this podcast, all the episodes are great.
Yeah, that's true.
That is an exception to the rule.
That's true.
But just occasionally, you might not get it right. But yeah, I love the repetition of through the tall grass amidst dark and churning waters upon a splintered rotten beam stands Timmy, etc. All that bit, because he sort of created a kind of written reproduction. It's a nice bit of writing that. I thought that was lovely.
Yeah, very well done. Very well done.
Yeah.
Solomon, thank you so much for sharing that with us. We like that.
We do like that. And you can check out his stuff at artofsolomon.com. But you can find he's done like videos and he does do photography and there's writing on there as well. But have a look and, support a fellow artist.
Absolutely.
Do you know what else we got to do now, Tom?
What?
Speaking of other people's work that I almost forgot about, we asked our listeners to have a go at Genevieve's 25-word story challenge. And we did actually have a couple of people joining in.
Did we?
We did, yeah. So Aaron Courts wrote 4 massive swats.
Yeah, I liked his Stupid Eyes. So it's called Stupid Eyes. I think I gave that away then, didn't I?
There's a nice setup for this one, by the way. Can I just mention?
Yeah.
He wrote 3 before that one. And then he was thinking about your story, and that's what kind of led to this one. He wrote an extra one based on the story that Tommy wrote.
So it's called Stupid Eyes. No, I'm not crying. They're watering. I got something in them. It's not the story, damn it. It's the damned wine. It's just my stupid eyes. And do you know what I replied to Aaron? I said what I thought was really good about that one was it didn't feel like it was short of any words or had been edited in any way. It was written so nicely that it just didn't feel...
Yeah, it didn't feel hacked.
No, not at all. Because often in these, because it's so tight, you've got to be really efficient with how it sits. But that one, I thought that one was great. It just kind of seemed to roll through, really.
Yeah, it's nice. You gotta kind of pick your subject matter, haven't you, so that you don't want to make it too complicated, obviously, if you've got...
Yeah, there's not much room for explaining.
It has to be pretty simple. We also got one from Jane, who won the merch last month for being nice, and it's just called Lying. Ellie passed David the marmalade. Her phone lit up. Tonight, 6:30, my bed. Who's that? Asked David. Just Mom. She needs some shopping. It's nice, that, isn't it?
Is that 25 words?
That's 25 words. In fact, possibly slightly less, 24.
That's very good.
I like the simplicity of that.
Very good.
There's a lot going on in that, isn't there? That little setup of the kind of bland domesticity with the marmalade and the mention of shopping.
You know what the genius thing about that is? As soon as you say marmalade, everyone's just talking about breakfast. And you're there at breakfast with them. There's very few other scenarios where marmalade gets involved.
I thought you were going to say sex. Marmalade sex.
That's not a thing, is it?
It's not. No, it's not. But yeah. Very nice, Jane.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you, both of you, sending those in. It's
very
nice.
Good. We should mention what we're doing next episode, Tom, because we've got quite an exciting couple of episodes coming up that I think people will be really fascinated with.
Yeah, it's a little corner that we'd not kind of delved into before, and it's people that get published through small publishers. Because we've had an awful lot of best-selling authors on that have been through the big 5 publishers. We've talked about self-publishing. We've kind of been all around the houses, really, but we've never massively focused on those people that do get publishing contracts, but it's through a small independent publisher with maybe 1 or 2 people doing all the legwork on it. So we thought that'd be really interesting. And what we've got is kind of an interesting mix of people who've had a great time doing it, people who kind of maybe see it as a bit of a stepping stone, and people who've had their fingers burnt as well. Because there's nothing quite as vulnerable as a want-to-be author. Yeah, it's, people will take an awful lot of stick with the promise of being published at the end of it, which is very understandable, but also... Yeah,
it's a dangerous and vulnerable place to be, isn't it, basically? But thankfully, there aren't very many examples of that. However, it does happen. So, so we're talking to the full gamut. People who are very, very happy with their experience and people who are a lot less happy. So, so join us.
And, of course, as well, a very successful small publisher as well, to get the publisher's eye view.
Very, very, very successful small publisher. I just needed to add a couple more berries there.
Absolutely, absolutely. So join us next time for that. Should be really interesting.
One last thank you to Scrivener.
Thank you, Scrivener.
Thank you, Scrivener. That's 2, but, they deserve it.
Indeed, indeed. So we thought there's probably only one way we can finish this episode, really.
I'm not sure it is the only way, Tom, but yeah.
I think it is, John. I think it is.
Before you say anything, can anyone guess what this song is based on this week? Okay. Some of you are right. Some of you are wrong. Should we just go straight into it?
It's a respectful tribute based around the theme of the podcast.
It's that time of day when those handsome, witty chaps have to say goodbye, and then their dreams start to collapse. And just like you did waste a day and then procrastinate till night. Hold an imaginary interview for when you're rich and famous. Stick a post-it on your screen with ideas that'll never make it. Then pop to the shops for some milk and writing snacks. Feng shui your writing space, then take 5 to relax. You deserve it. Hold your head in your hand, stick the kettle on again. Pledge to write 1,000 words, just don't promise when. Take the dog for a walk, though your dog's been dead for years. Reread what you wrote the other day while shedding tears. But if you really want to waste hours and hours, here's how you really can't go wrong. Use your incredible procrastinatory superpowers and spend all day writing a tribute to the chicken song.
Nice.
Yeah, it's not going to get to number 1 though, is it?
You never know.